Welcome, one and all, to another Pacific414 episode review. I'm your host, Mike, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking about The Bad Batch, Episode 5, Rampage. Now, with Rampage, you get a few things, and one of those things that actually one of our characters gets is Omega is issued Crosshair's comm badge since he doesn't need it anymore. So now that Omega has the risk communicator, she can communicate with the rest of the squad, relay her location, and as Echo points out in the episode, it's not a toy. Now, in this episode, our crew of Hunter, Wrecker, Echo, and Tech, along with Omega, need to go to an area called Ord Mantell. The reason why is because there's an informant who was used by the Jedi during the Clone Wars that they need to get in contact with, so they can find out information about Fennec Shand. It's Echo who reveals this information. Echo has never met Sid himself. All he ever heard about is how the Jedi used Sid to find out information that they needed. They land at Ord Mantell. They go into a hole-in-the-wall bar where there's scum and villainy, of course. And they start asking around if anybody knows where Sid is, who Sid is. And if they don't, have you heard anything about Sid? Of course, the clone troopers aren't able to discover who Sid is, but Omega is. Omega actually points it out right away that the person who Hunter and the crew first ask and inquire about Sid is actually Sid. How she deduces this? Call it instinct, call it the Force, call it plot convenience, whatever it may be. It's Omega who's able to determine that Sid is who all of us in the audience probably already knew that the character was the person or the alien that they were looking for. Sid is voiced by Rhea Perlman. Now, for people who never saw Cheers, well, she played Carla on the sitcom Cheers, which ran from, I believe it was 82 to 93. It had a good long 11-season run, I believe it was. I didn't really watch it. I knew of it, and of course, in the repeats, it would be on, and a lot of times, if I did have Cheers on, it was background noise, but Rhea Perlman, the wife of Danny DeVito, she was also in Matilda, voices Sid in this episode. And what ends up happening is Echo brings up a hologram of Fennec Shand. Of course, Sid doesn't know anything about Fennec Shand, or so she says. You're dealing with an informant. How can you trust them to know that their information is 100% accurate? It could be 50% accurate. It could be 25% accurate, or not accurate at all. Sid, she doesn't appreciate the fact that Echo just activates the holo communicator to bring up the image of Fennec Shand, but she says, I'll help you find out who this bounty hunter is if you do a job for me. And that job is actually rescuing someone by the name of Moochie. She describes Moochie as a kid, and Moochie's been held captive by Zygerian slavers. They need to go to an old mining facility on Ord Mantell to rescue Moochie. Well, the troopers get there on their ship. Omega's in tow. They end up going to the area where the Zygerian slavers are, along with their captives. They scope out 3 people who are being held captive by the Zygerian traders, but there's also a flying lizard. I believe it's what's called a berserk. I don't know. So what happens in this episode is Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshairs, and Echo end up getting captured after they're trying to scout different locations to see where they can get the drop on the Zygerian traders. So it's up to Omega, who was sent back to the ship to rescue the 4 of them, plus Muchi and the other folks that are being held captive. Of course, the aliens that are being held captive are mistaken as Muchi until we find out that Muchi is actually a Rancor, a baby Rancor. And this baby Rancor was locked up in the cage. It doesn't get out of the cage until Omega crawls around the facility to get the guy's gear, because the guys are worried about Omega, and Hunter even mentions how they need to get in contact with Omega, and unbeknownst to him, Omega's actually returned to the location after some Zygerian slavers went to the ship to see if there was anyone else on board. So with Omega there, and the clone troopers still locked up, our clone troopers have shock collars around them, and they're bonded. And of course, there's chain linking them all together. So what ends up happening is the Zygerian traders find Omega, and Omega boasts that she wasn't snooping around after the Zygerian traders say that they caught her snooping around. She was actually doing some unlocking, and the baby Rancor is running loose. With a baby Rancor on the Rampage, all hell breaks loose. The Zygerian traders go after Muchi. The troopers are freed thanks to the strength of Wrecker. The lizard starts chasing them. The flying lizard starts chasing them. A few Zygerian traders are knocked out. Muchi is actually confronted by the Bad Batch crew. The Bad Batch crew separate, with Wrecker, Echo, and Tech going their own way. Of course, Echo and Omega end up going back to the ship, where Hunter deals with the Zygerian slaver leader and ends up taking care of him after the Zygerian leader uses an electric whip to try to push back Hunter. It doesn't work. Hunter's able to overtake him and knock him out. Echo and Omega return after helping those who were held captive and mistaken as Muji. At least the little girl was mistaken as Muji. They help set him free. When Omega and Echo return, they see that Wrecker is fighting with the Rancor to assert dominance, since that's how the Rancor hierarchy works. But also what we see in this episode is Omega gets a new weapon. She gets a crossbow that I'm sure we're going to see her use in future episodes. It's a given that she'll be using that crossbow in future episodes. So getting back to Wrecker and the Rancor, Muchi, well, they do end up tiring each other out. Next we see is the Bad Batch returning to Old Mantel, the bar, the hole in the ground where Rhea Perlman's Sid is at, and she is talking to Bib Fortuna. Now, I know this is the first mention I've made of Bib Fortuna. There is a scene in this episode where we see Sid communicating with someone, and of course, when you're watching, you're going, that sounds like Bib Fortuna, and then you only get from the mouth to the chin shot. So we're hearing him speak, and it's definitely Bib Fortuna. So they get back. There's a scene inside with Sid and Bib Fortuna talking, and we hear the roar of Moochie. Bib Fortuna is excited. They all exit the bar. Bib Fortuna sees Moochie, gives Moochie a hug. Omega was actually riding on the back of Moochie. She gets off. Moochie and Wrecker, they have their goodbyes, and everyone else has their goodbyes. The Gamorrean guard are there with Bib Fortuna. They leave with Bib Fortuna and Moochie. Then the Bad Batch go back inside with Sid, back into the bar. Hunter and Sid end up having a conversation after Sid rewards Hunter with some credits, and she reveals information on Fennec Shan. She also tells Hunter that in order to find more information, in order to stay safe, you have to have money and you have to have power, something that the Bad Batch doesn't have at this current point in time. Sid also mentions that it's very peculiar how there's someone like Fennec Shan who's risen up in the bounty hunter ranks going after them already. There must be some sort of price on their head, she alludes. She also tells Hunter that there's nothing to worry about. Their secret's safe with her. So that raises some eyebrows with the way she says it. She says it in such a way where even Hunter's taken aback, and you can tell by the expression on his face that he's thinking, what the hell is going on here? The reason I say that is anytime you have a character that says, your secret's safe with me, you know they're going to be working both sides. You know they're going to be working for the side that is introduced to them, and of course for the antagonist. And the antagonist being the Empire. The antagonist could be, back on Camino with the Clone Project itself. The Clone Project that's supposedly going to secure the contract with the Empire to continue to produce clones, but the key to it is Omega. She's the key to everything. It's a narrative that's been very popular amongst current movies and TV shows, having a character who's the key to everything. So we will see what happens in the next episode. This wasn't a bad episode. I would really like to know more as far as what makes Omega's genetic makeup so much more valuable than the previous clones. It may have been touched up on a previous episode, and I probably missed it. I would really like to know why is she so special? Why is it up to her genetic code to keep this contract? Yes, it's the next step in the clone trooper policy, clone trooper development, if you will. But what makes her the key to everything other than us as the audience being told for the bazillionth time that there's a character who's the key to everything? I don't know. That's why I'm going to continue to watch it. I'm not hating the series. I just wish that writers nowadays could come up with something other than this character is the key to everything. That narrative's been spun around so far, so fast, that it's already come off its axis, I should say. So, all in all, this was a good episode. Really enjoyed it. I really liked the ties to Jabba the Hutt, Bib Fortuna. Another Star Wars episode where we see Bib Fortuna, just like we saw him at the end of The Mandalorian when Boba Fett showed up at Jabba's palace and shot him dead, and then took the throne alongside Fennec Shan. So we will see what happens, and luckily we know a little bit about Fennec Shand already from what we've seen in The Mandalorian, but it'll be interesting to get some of her backstory that will hopefully be told in The Bad Batch. Who knows how long this series is going to run for? Maybe it's going to only run for one season, maybe 2 seasons. I don't know. I'm guessing. I would really like to see this series go a full course, maybe 4 or 5 seasons to get a full story. Something that leads into Rebels would be nice. Of course, that's completely up to Dave Filoni and the writing team. And of course, viewership, Disney, Lucasfilm, whatever, as far as how far this is going to go. Unfortunately, I know we're not going to see a young Cara Dune. It'd be cool to see a young Cara Dune, but of course, that's probably never going to happen now with the Gina Carano thing and everybody just going bananas over it, bananas over what she said, which I'm just going to state it right here. Gina Carano did nothing wrong. She was just pointing out a part of history. It's not a pretty part of history, it's just a part of history. So, who knows where this series is actually going to lead into. We haven't seen Crosshairs for a while, so perhaps with Omega being issued Crosshairs comm device, the next episode we'll actually see Crosshairs again. We've only seen him in Aftermath and then, in the third episode of the series, so it'll be interesting to see how many more opportunities we get to learn about Crosshairs on his own or with a new squad, with the first formation of the troopers that we saw. Has that expanded since we last saw him? Who knows? That's why we tune in each and every week to watch these episodes. On that note, I am going to wrap up this episode review of Rampage for episode 5 of The Bad Batch. Thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. And if you like the content on this channel, it doesn't matter if it's Pacific414 episode review, Pacific414 movie review, the box score, the game content, whatever content has brought you here and you enjoy and you like the videos I put on this channel, then subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much. Have a good rest of your day, evening, morning, whatever time of day you're watching this. Have a good one. Take care.